Welcome to H3 Live. You are here with Trish and Steve. Hey, Steve Boese, how are
Hey,
you?
Trish. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. So you're on the road, but we are doing this anyway, right?
Yes. It's
Uh,
good to check in. I'm
How's your
sorry, say that. Oh, the trip is good. It's been very busy. I happen to be in Boston right now for the next couple of days. Yeah, but busy and fun. And we just got off recording a show with some folks who have a location here in Boston with Primark, the big retail organization, which
trip?
I can't wait for folks to hear that podcast. And so, yeah, we thought we'd jump on H3 Live for a few minutes while we had a moment of time this week, because this week's been crazy for both of us.
Yeah, and actually it's funny because you've been there and I recorded another podcast, which will come out in another week or so, with the CEO from Jobcase, Fred Goff, who was also in Boston. So
Yeah,
anyway, kind of it's like a Boston theme week for
it
a lot
is.
of reasons. No, I'm glad you're going to be back next week. I will as well, but I'm not going to say where I'm going yet. I'll tell you all next week. But
Okay.
after we record this, I'm actually going to hit the road myself for a really fun personal trip, and more to come on that. But I was going to show you. I know you've got some news for us, but news and fun.
Hmm.
I bought a book. I have not bought a book recently, but I bought a book I want to share. So, do you watch the Today Show with
I
Savannah?
have seen it. I can't. I'm not a regular viewer, but
Yeah.
I'm certainly familiar.
So anyway, she has Savannah Guthrie, who's on the Today Show. She's just lovely. And she has this new book, Mostly What God Does, Reflections on Seeking and Finding His Love Everywhere. So
Sweet.
I thought, what a nice way to, I'll be driving some of the trip and then also flying. So maybe just a good way to reflect on, work, personal, a little bit of everything. So
Well,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, getting a new book is great. I've sadly been working on the same book. This not a novel I've been trying to finish for months and months and months, and I'm trying to muscle my way through it. I don't have it right handy, but
What is it?
it's called Norwegian Wood. I might be able to find it in my bag over here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's was
What's it
it?
about?
Here it is. I do have it. It's by a Japanese author named Haruki Murakami. A lot of there we go.
Oh,
There
there
we
you
go.
go. Okay.
It's a novel. It's about young people and their kind of yeah. It's a novel. So it's fantastic stuff. Really good writing. I just haven't had the chance to finish it, but I will soon. But
Well,
because I
good.
found myself only reading a lot of like business books, right? Because we get pitched a lot of authors. We just had a great author on the show, Joshua Berry. So the last book I finished was his book,
His book.
right? Dare
Dare
to
to
Be Naive, which
That's
I
right.
highly recommend.
Yep.
But yeah, so but Trish, I'm excited to be with you today. I had something I did want to talk about. It was in the news,
Okay.
and our colleague Karen Steed sent this over to me this morning and alerted me to this story. And it's about the country of Italy,
Oh,
Trish. I don't know if you've heard. Yeah, move to Italy. Why? Maybe so. And you know why? Because
why?
our friends in Italy have relaunched what they call their Digital Nomad visa. So these kinds of new visa programs kind of
I'm
sprang up.
mad.
Yeah, you are. And these kinds of visa programs popped up in popularity around the world during the pandemic, right? When so many folks, knowledge workers specifically, right, or office workers, if you will, had to go to remote working and hybrid working, or certainly fully remote working in the case of some of these countries. And so they've relaunched this visa, though, recently. And so here are the requirements, Trish, if you want to move to Italy under a digital nomad visa. And I think you could qualify. I think so. Let's check. You need to be a non-European Union or Swiss citizen. I
Okay.
think that's a
Check.
check. You have to prove, I don't know how you prove this. You've been a remote worker for at least 6 months, which I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you have.
Easy. Yeah.
You've got to have at least
I was
$30,000 a year in income. We won't get into your income, but I think you've got that.
I got that.
You need to have health insurance. You need to prove you'll be covered by health insurance for the duration of your stay in Italy,
Okay.
right? Because
Great.
they don't want you to show up and start using their doctors or hospitals or something. You do need to show here's a place to live, so you need to sort out your accommodation for the
Okay.
year, wherever that might be.
Okay.
And then that's it. You qualify. You have to show up in an Italian consulate to apply in person. So
Wow.
I don't know if there's one in Lincoln, Nebraska, but there's probably one somewhere near you.
Somewhere. Yeah. I could
So
find
here's here's the question, Trish. Would you really seriously consider, whether it's Italy or some other place, would you consider a digital nomad visa and going to live somewhere overseas for a year?
Oh, I would. I would. But I've been sort of living that lifestyle now for about a year, actually, a little over a year. And there are some difficulties already doing that in the US, just from the standpoint of when you mentioned healthcare, right?
Mhm.
Even in the US, your doctor can only practice in the state where they are located because
Hmm.
the COVID regulations that allowed for easier access to telehealth are no longer in effect. And so it's
Oh, wow.
I think that the country is actually a little bit behind on helping people be digital nomads and being able to experience all the different states and then there are tax implications and so forth. So absolutely open to it, but I'd need to check out a lot of those sorts of things, medical and taxes specifically,
Mhm.
before I did it.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah,
Would you do it? Would you move to Italy?
it's alluring. It sounds wonderful. Italy has a lot of lovely places. There's a lot of coastline, right, in the
You
country
been?
of Italy.
I've not
I've only been to Rome, and it was a
oh,
long time ago, and it was just for a couple of days, so barely, right? I barely even remember it.
yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be fun. Portugal has been another country that has been very, very popular for these kinds of digital nomad type visas as well through the
Okay.
pandemic.
All
So this
right.
is a new one. It was just in the news this week. So
I'll keep you
I
posted if I go.
yeah, check that out. Yeah, let me know if you do go. We'll have to adjust our meetings and our calls,
Oh my gosh.
recordings due to the time zone, right?
Good stuff. Hey, we've got a couple more minutes. I know we want to try and keep this under 10 minutes. So, any other big news that you're
I just had one thing. Trish, I love doing the Workplace Minute show that we do on the HR Happy Hour Network. I do 2, sometimes 3 per week. I just did one this week about a new article that was in Harvard Business Review, written
okay?
by one of our friends, Trish, who we know, Peter Capelli from
Oh,
Penn.
yes.
And
I
as well as his co-authors, Raina Neme, also wrote this article with him. And the article's called HR's New Role. You've got it right there. It was just in HBR, and it's just in the interest of time. It's a very long article and very worth your time to read on HBR, basically theorizing that after 50 years of HR largely being cost cutters, driving efficiency, being more on the side of employers versus employees, right? After 50 years of that, for various reasons that the article discusses, it's time now for HR to just pivot much more, or pivot slightly, if you say, to be much more employee focused, advocate for employees, for their development, for their growth, for their well-being, and to make very stridently the case that there are lots of downsides of cost cutting, of leaving positions unfilled, of outsourcing, right? And a lot of the things about that we've done to reduce the costs of people in organizations. And so it's a compelling story. And Trish, I doubt you've read it because I just talked to you about it 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, I have not read it yet.
But I hope it raises the conversation again, because I think it needs to be had about what is really the HR role. Is it employer focused? Is it employee focused? I know it needs to be
Yeah.
sort of both, but where should it really be more focused,
I mean,
right?
as someone who did it for a long time, I feel like I always tried to be almost on the fence. You had to straddle both sides. There were definitely times where you had to be the advocate for employees, for sure, right? Especially when you're maybe talking about people that are having difficulties with a leader or something like that. But then I guess overall, I hadn't really thought about it. Probably 60% for the company, 40% for the employees, if I were to
Mm-hmm.
like divvy it up, because you do always have to protect the company, right? At any cost. So,
Yeah, the article's really interesting, and I hope since it's such an influential, widely read publication,
yeah.
right, that it raises the debate a little bit once again. There's a really specific example in the article, which I liked, where it talks about
Mhm.
how through a lot of interviews and a lot of field work that the writers did, that they found like lots of C-suite leaders and CEOs don't even really know the costs of filling positions. And when you've got turnover and you're churning through people all the time, like just how
Mhm.
expensive that is, right, for the organization. And so it's a fascinating read. We'll maybe talk about it some more down the road, but that was on my list this week of
Yeah.
that I read it and made me think, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it today. And I hope folks check it out.
Yeah, I definitely will check it out. I think it ties to a little bit of the conversation we just recorded with with John from Primark. I mean, it's
Mhm.
talking about like that's a people first, truly a people first strategic approach for the way they handle their employees and their leaders. And I think that if you're in a company where you don't have that, you're probably more at risk to being sort of that old school HR where you're the HR police, which look, a lot of HR leaders, we don't enjoy that role at
Right.
all. You want to be leading with your heart as well, right? Because it is about people.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I can't wait to read it. So
Yeah.
I'll have to
You'll
add
check
that
that out.
to my book that I'm reading and now the article that I'm reading. So
Awesome.
anyway, any fun plans for the weekend?
I'm going to Italy on Saturday, and I'll be there for a year. So that's it.
I was that arrivederci? Is that I don't know Italian.
Arrivederci. I think you got it.
Did I get it? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Uh, I'm going to be in Texas, so I don't have a Texan accent, but yeah,
Don't mess with Texas. That's my advice, Trish.
my weekend starts now. So
Don't
thanks
mess with
for
Texas.
I know, right? Yeah, hit me up if you're in Texas. Say howdy, whatever. And yeah, we'll catch you all next week, and I will share where I've been and what I did because it's top secret for now. And yeah, Steve, you'll be back at home, right? Very good. All
Or
right.
Rome.
Thanks everyone for listening. Be sure to check out the HR Happy Hour Show podcast and all of our network friends, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And we're also available on YouTube. Just look up HR Happy Hour and you will find us. Thanks, everyone.